As down the glen one Easter morn to a city fair rode I, there armed lines of marching men in squadrons passed me by. No pipe did hum, nor battle drum did ring out its dread tattoo, but the Angelus bell o'er the Liffey swell rang out in the foggy dew. Right proudly high over Dublin town we flung out the flag of war. Far better to die 'neath our Irish sky than at Sula or Sudalbar. And from the plains of Royal Mead strong men came hurrying through, while Britannia's Huns with their long-range guns sailed in through the foggy dew. But the bravest fell, and the requiem bell rang mournfully and clear, for those who died on that Easter tide in the springtime of the year, while the world did gaze with deep amaze at these fearless men, though few, who bore the fight that freedom's light might shine through the foggy dew. Back through the glen I rode again, and my heart with grief was sore, for I'd parted then with valiant men, whose like I never would see more. But to and fro in my grief I go, I kneel and I pray for you, for slavery fled, oh, our glorious dead, when you fell in the foggy dew.
We are gathered here today to honour and remember all those who gave their lives in pursuit of Irish freedom. 95 years ago, the men and women of the Irish Volunteers and Irish Citizens' Army went out to take on the might of the British Empire and strike a blow for freedom. That struggle for a socialist republic continues today. Easter is a very special time for Republicans, when we remember those in every generation who made the ultimate sacrifice for Irish freedom, when we recommit ourselves to achieving our aims of Irish liberation and socialism, and when, in the words of Pearse, we are rebaptised in the Fenian faith.
Let me, who have led them into this, speak, in my own and in my fellow commanders' names, and in the name of Ireland present and to come, their praise, and ask those who come after them to remember them. For 4 days they have fought and toiled, almost without cessation, almost without sleep, and in the intervals of fighting, they have sung songs of the freedom of Ireland. If they do not win this fight, they will at least have deserved to win it. But win it they will, although many may win it in death. Already they have done a great thing. They have redeemed Dublin from many shames and made her name splendid among the names of cities. If I were to mention the names of individuals, my list would be a long one. I will mention only that of Commandant General James Connolly, commanding the Dublin Division. He lies wounded, but is still the guiding brain of our resistance. If we accomplish no more than we have accomplished, I am satisfied. I am satisfied that we have saved Ireland's honour. I am satisfied that we should have accomplished more, that we should have accomplished the task of enthroning as well as proclaiming the Irish Republic as a sovereign state. Had our arrangement for a simultaneous rising of the whole country, with a combined plan as sound as the Dublin plan had been proved to be, being allowed to go through on Easter Sunday. For my part, as to anything I have done in this, I am not afraid to face either the judgment of God or the judgment of posterity. Signed P.H. Pearse, Commandant General, Commanding-in-Chief, the Army of the Irish Republic, and the President of the Provisional Government. Go Margo.
At the last minute, when we were going off at 12 o'clock, Connolly gave out revolvers to our girls, saying, "Don't use them except in the last resort." There were 9 girls in our party going to the castle. We were instructed to go to Dublin Castle. It was at the castle that the first shot was fired. I with my girls followed Sean Connolly and his party. We went right up to the castle gate, up the narrow street. Just then, a police sergeant came out. Seeing our determination, he thought it was a parade, and they would probably be going up Ship Street. When Connolly went to go past him, the sergeant put out his arm, and Connolly shot him dead. When the military guard saw that it was serious, he pulled the gates. Sean Connolly shouted, "Get in, get in!" On the flash, the gates were closed. We went into City Hall and at once manned it. The police did not think the citizen army were serious. Sean Connolly veered round his gun and said, "Get into the City Hall!" We took up various positions when we got into the City Hall. We sat pretty for a couple of hours. I and Ginny Shanahan went to the roof and talked to the men there. The firing had opened and there was a return of fire from the castle. It was very heavy for the first hour. There was one young British soldier killed in Ship Street. At 2 o'clock, Sean Connolly, who was on the roof, was hit with a stray bullet and killed. Dr. Lynn was still there. She came up and attended him. She said, "I'm afraid he is gone." He was bleeding very much from the stomach. I said the act of contrition into his ear. We had no priest.
The speaker today has travelled down from Belfast to be with us. He is an ex-POW and an ex-blanket man. Could you please give a warm welcome for Pádraig McCotter?
Carja, I'm honoured to have been invited to speak here in Dublin to mark the 95th anniversary of the 1816 Rising. In the early decades of the 20th century, this city was a cockpit of revolutionary struggle in Ireland. 95 years ago, at 12 noon on Easter Monday, the women and men of the Irish Citizens Army and the Irish Volunteers marched out together from Liberty Hall, the headquarters of the Irish Transport and General Workers Union. They moved to take on the might of the British Empire and to secure the right of the people of Ireland to national self-determination. The declaration of a sovereign Irish Republic was the culmination of decades of planning by the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the meticulous organising of individuals such as Tom Clark, who had spent 15 years in British penal hellholes, and the young Sean McDermott. The proclamation of the Irish Republic was both a radical and visionary document. It declared the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland to be sovereign and indefeasible. It guaranteed religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunity to all its citizens, and it declared its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and to cherish all the children of the nation equally. And it rejected the sectarian divisions fostered by the British government in the interest of maintaining this whole in Ireland. 95 years on, it is a vision that is yet to be realised. Despite Britain's vastly superior military forces, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army fought courageously in defence of the Republic. Many paid the ultimate price for their stand, and we are here today to pay our respects, to remember their sacrifice and to commit ourselves to the completion of the historic task of achieving Irish independence and socialism. Those who died that historic week and who are buried here in Glasnevin include young men like Sean Connolly from Marino on Dublin's north side. He's a noted sportsman and actor. He was also a valued member of the Irish Citizen Army and led the assault on Dublin Castle, seat of British rule in Ireland. He was shot dead by a British sniper on the roof of City Hall and was the first volunteer casualty of Easter week. Sean was one of dozens killed during that historical week. While the British state valiantly suppressed the Rising, executed our leaders and interned thousands in prison camps, they could not kill or imprison the ideal that inspired the Rising. Nor could they suppress the desire of the people of Ireland for freedom. Early this morning, we witnessed the spectacle of the Dublin government laying a wreath at the GPO. Comrades, the political elite has no right to claim the revolutionary tradition of 1916. The Dublin government supports the continued British occupation of the 6 counties, is imposing debt slavery upon working people in the 26 counties, and by allowing US troops to travel through Shannon Airport, continues to facilitate imperial wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. In just 3 weeks, this same government intends parading their Commander-in-Chief of Britain's military forces through the streets of our capital city. It is exactly a century since the last British monarch visited Dublin. In 1911, Republicans and Socialists such as James Connolly, Helena Maloney and Constance Markovich led popular resistance to the visit of the British King George V. James Connolly published a leaflet outlining why the Socialist Party of Ireland opposed that visit. While 100 years may separate these two visits, Connolly's words resonate today. Fellow workers, said he, stand by the dignity of your class. All these parading royalties, all this insolent aristocracy, all these grovelling, dirt-eating capitalist traitors, all these are but signs of disease in any social state. Diseases which a royal visit brings to a head and spews in all its nastiness before our horrified eyes. But as a recognition of the disease is the first stage towards its cure, so that we may rid our social state of its political and social diseases, we must recognise the elements of corruption. Hence, in bringing them all together and exposing their unity, even a royal visit may help us to understand, and understanding help us to know how to destroy the royal, aristocratic and capitalistic classes who live upon our labour. Those grovelling, dirt-eating capitalists that Connolly railed against continue to be in the ascendancy, and like Connolly, our task is to destroy the parasitic capitalist system that continues to profit from our labour. The 2011 visit includes a plan for Elizabeth Windsor to lay a wreath at the Garden of her Remembrance, the place which honours the sacrifice of many of our patriot dead. It is a sickening betrayal of the men and women of 1916 and to all those who fought and died to bring an end to British imperial occupation and class privilege in Ireland that the head of the British state and of its military forces should be allowed to lay a wreath in memory of our patriot dead. Of course, the establishment and their media cheerleaders tell us that the visit of Elizabeth Windsor is about the so-called normalisation of relations between Britain and Ireland. Let me say this. There's nothing normal about the fact that 5,000 British combat troops continue to occupy the 6 counties, supported by 9,000 members of the paramilitary police and hundreds of British military intelligence agents. There is nothing normal about the fact that dozens of Republican prisoners continue to be held in Maghaberry prison, where they are regularly beaten and strip-searched. And there is nothing normal about the fact that a British Tory government, ably assisted by the Stormont puppet Parliament, is imposing savage cuts upon working class people in my own city, home city of Belfast, and across the 6 counties. It is worth recalling that the Dublin government is welcoming the head of the British state on the 37th anniversary of the Dublin Monaghan bombings. That day, 33 people were slaughtered in a series of no warning car bombs. Agents of the British state planned and executed those bomb attacks. It was quite simply an act of war by the British state. To this day, the British state refuses to acknowledge the role its agents played in that slaughter and have consistently blocked all attempts to reveal the truth. And they call this normal? Éirígí will vigorously and actively oppose this visit. We call on those who reject class privilege, who oppose imperialism in all its guises, and who support the right of the people of Ireland to national self-determination to join us in resisting the visit of the Commander-in-Chief of the British military. Fine Gael and the Labour Party were in power in the 26 counties when the British state committed its act of war in Dublin and Monaghan. It was a reactionary administration, anti-working class and viciously anti-republican. They attempted to blame Republicans for those bomb attacks. This was an administration that brought us a heavy gang and sustained attacks on the working class. 37 years later, they are back in power and back to doing what they do best, defending the interests of the rich and launching vicious attacks on the working class. The working class is being forced to pay the gambling debts of a parasitic class of bankers and property speculators. Working people are being driven into debt slavery in order to rescue the rotten class privilege of the capitalist system. And while workers suffer savage pay cuts, the rich elite continue to control vast wealth. Just 1% of the population in the 26 counties controls 34% of this wealth. Our natural resources have been surrendered to multinational oil corporations. Despite pre-election promises and populist blustering from the Labour Party, the diktats of the IMF are being imposed with ruthless determination by Labour ministers. This is class war and it must be resisted. Éirígí will continue to play its part in the fight back against the IMF boot boys and their native lackeys. Tragically for the working class, another reactionary government is back in power in Britain. In the late 1970s, the Thatcher-led government sought to smash the Republican struggle. The Republican women in Armagh and the men in the Haste Blocks withstood the privations of Thatcher's prison regime. By attempting to criminalise Republican prisoners, the British state hoped to quell the demands of arisen people. They believed that they could bury the Republican struggle in the torture chambers of the H-Blocks and Armagh. They failed utterly. 30 years ago, 10 brave young men gave their lives in defence of the Republican struggle. From the dark prison cells of the H-Blocks, the Republican prisoners remained defiant and kept the flame of freedom burning. Hundreds of thousands of ordinary people in Ireland and across the world mobilised in support of the 5 demands and called for the smashing of the H-Blocks and Armagh. The Cuban president, Fidel Castro, paid tribute to the hunger strikers and denounced the cruelty of the Thatcher regime. He said, "I feel that the Irish patriots are these days writing one of the most heroic pages of human history. They have won the admiration and respect of the world. They also deserve its support. There are 10 who have died in the most emotional gesture of sacrifice, of personal selflessness and courage imaginable. Humanity should be ashamed that before its very eyes such crimes are committed. The stubbornness, intransigence, cruelty and insensibility of the British government before the international community regarding the problem of Irish patriots who are on hunger strike and to death remind us of Torquemada and the inhumanity of the Inquisition during the Middle Ages. The 1981 hunger strike internationalised the freedom struggle and inspired a generation of young people to get involved. While Thatcher joined the rogues gallery of despotic leaders, the names of Bobby Sands, Raymond McCreish, Francis Hughes, Patsy O'Hara, Joe MacDonald, Martin Hurson, Kevin Lynch, Kieran Doherty, Tom McElwee and Mickey Devine are remembered with pride by freedom-loving people across the world. Today we salute the bravery of the 10 H-Block martyrs and remember them with pride. In recalling the words of Fidel Castro, who spoke so eloquently of the hunger strikers, let me take this opportunity to pay tribute to the people of Cuba on the 50th anniversary of the Bay of Pigs, when they defeated the CIA-backed reactionary forces who attempted to invade Cuba. The steadfastness of the Cuban people in the face of decades of US aggression continues to inspire Irish socialists and Republicans. We salute you. We also extend our continued solidarity to the people of Palestine and the Basque Country and all of those who fight against imperial occupation. International solidarity has always been a central tenet of Irish republicanism. The international capitalist crisis of the 1930s saw the rise of international fascism. 75 years ago, General Franco sought to usurp democracy in Spain and instigate a fascist counter-revolution. In 1936, hundreds of Irish socialists and Republicans answered the call of the International Brigade and travelled to Spain to fight fascism. They were led by Frank Ryan, an IRA veteran who is buried here in Glasnevin Cemetery. 17-year-old Dubliner Tommy Wood, a member of the Féin Éireann, left a note for his mother before making the journey to Spain. And he said, "I'm going to Spain to fight with the international column. I left a message to be delivered on Sunday. We are going to fight for the working class. It is not a religious war. That is all propaganda. God bless you." Tommy Wood was killed at the Battle of Cordoba. He, along with young men like Tommy Patton from Achill, Charlie Donnelly from County Tyrone, Kit Conway from County Tipperary and Peter Daly from County Wexford were among the dozens of Irish volunteers who were killed on the battlefields of Spain fighting the fascist enemy. On this, the 75th anniversary of the start of the Spanish Civil War, we remember the sacrifice of those brave young Irishmen who made the ultimate sacrifice in the international fight against fascism. Comrades, the business of Easter week 1916 remains unfinished. The task facing the present generation of Irish socialists and Republicans is no less daunting than that faced by the women and men who marched out from Liberty Hall on Easter Monday 1916. Capitalism and imperialism remain in the ascendant. The 6 counties remains under British occupation. Financial capital and its international agents, the International Monetary Fund, rule the 26 counties. The working class across Ireland is being sacrificed to rescue the rotten, corrupt system of capitalism. We must all commit ourselves to uprooting that system and playing our part in completing that task commenced during Easter week 1916, the establishment of a socialist republic. It is the only fitting tribute we can pay to all those Republicans and socialists who have gone before us. As the men in the blanket protest would have shared in the face of the screws, Chucky Arla.